Hey there, welcome to my channel, the Gourmet Woodsman. My name's Greg. Today I'm going to show you how I made this lamb prosciutto. What I have here and what I'll be using today is a boneless lamb leg. When making charcuterie, I always like to get the best meat I can, and for me, this was the best I could do today. I usually like to get my meat from people who raised it. That's how I get my beef. That's how I get my pork. This is the best I could do. Damn it, I gotta clean that up. It's pasture raised, no hormones, no antibiotics. The most important thing is that it's fresh, and this was just packed yesterday, day that I picked it up. For this prosciutto, I'm not going to be making the whole leg. I like making my prosciutto out of just the muscle parts and leave the bone out of it. It's just more reliable for me that way. But what I want, as you can see, the bone used to be right here. What I want is this muscle. This is the culatello. If this were a pig, this would be the culatello. This would be the fiocco. So what I'm going to do is just cut this fiocco part off. And like I said, in a way it's a shame not to make this as a roast, but this prosciutto is going to be awesome. And all these little pieces, I've got some projects I'm pretty excited about. Clean all this up for my other project. I'm not sure if I'm going to use it yet for a merguez or a sujuk. Or maybe there'll be enough for both. We'll see. It's looking pretty good. I think I just want to cut it here so that, this thin stuff will dry a lot differently than this fat part. There is some silver skin under this fat, so I'm a little nervous about that on a prosciutto. But I also don't want to cut off all the fat. That's almost like the deckle fat in the brisket. Thinking that's looking pretty good to me. Pretty uniform. And just a little bit of fat here I don't want. Okay, I'm feeling pretty good about that. Put this away for my other project. Now I'm going to weigh my lamb culatello so that I can calculate my salt and spices. 2031. First thing I'm going to do is weigh up some juniper berries. Put them into a cold frying pan. I'm going to go put these on low heat to start just kind of letting the oil release. Lightly toast them. I'm going to start with salt. I'm using diamond crystal salt because it actually is lighter. This is almost twice as much volume as it would be if I was using Morton's salt. I feel like having that extra volume to help rub into the meat is going to actually be helpful to me. I'm also going to use a little bit of cure number 2. Doesn't take much. And the reason I'm using cure number 2 is because I think it's going to take more than a month. If it takes more than a month, you want to use cure number 2. It has nitrate. It's the nitrite that reacts with the meat, and the nitrate takes time to convert to nitrite. The nitrate can't interact with the meat. It has to convert to nitrite first. Anyway, that's the science. I'm going to add a little rosemary. I'm using dried rosemary. If you had some sprig of fresh rosemary, that would be great. But I don't. So those oils are just starting to release a little. They're looking just a little oily on the outside. I'm going to grind them up. I'm going to grind them up in this little mortar. Why not? That looks good to me. It's smelling really good. It smells like a really good gin. Now I'm just going to put those in here. Kind of mix that together a little bit. Now I'm going to put this cure all over every side of this piece of meat here. I'm doing this in a pan. I'm going to make sure to get every bit of this cure because it's weighed up to a precise amount because I'm using what's called the equilibrium cure. The other method is called the salt box cure. The salt box, you just pack your meat in salt. You can layer it as many layers deep as you need to as long as there's salt in between. That's how I did it at first because that is the old school way. And the first few things I ever cured, I did that way. It is easy to oversalt it. But with the equilibrium cure, you really can't oversalt it. That's why it's called equilibrium, because when your meat is cured all the way, it will be at equilibrium with all the juices that it's pulled out. Everything will be the same salt content. So I just like to roll it around, get as much of this to stick as I can. Oh, it doesn't stick, I'll put in the bag that I'll be carrying this in. And you can use a Ziploc bag, or you could use a vacuum seal bag. I'm going to use a vacuum seal bag. I like to twist the top over a little bit. And I'm going to get everything from the bottom of this pan and make sure that it gets in here. I really want to get every last bit that I can. Well, 99% or more. Okay, that's as much as I can get in there. If you don't have one of these, you can use a Ziploc bag, no problem. Just, I would put it in a pan because sometimes the Ziploc bags can leak a little bit. Now I'm going to use this brining time calculator to figure out how long this meat needs to cure for. I'll leave a link in the description below. You need to put in the thickness in either inches or centimeters, whether it's flat or round, and then it will tell me how many days it needs to cure for. And over here it says the best practice is to add 20% more time to make sure this cure reaches the middle of whatever I'm curing. Well, now that I know it's going to take just over 2 weeks, I've labeled it, and I'm just going to flip it over like every day or so. Every day or every other day. Try to distribute all that liquid and cure equally. And yeah, we'll be back in a couple weeks or so. Here's my lamb leg prosciutto, my lamb culatello. It's been curing in the fridge for just over 3 weeks. Could have come out like 5 days ago, but it'll be fine. That's the cool thing about the equilibrium cure. Once this has come to an equilibrium, it doesn't absorb any more salt or flavor. I'm going to take this over to my sink, rinse off all these spices and whatnot, and then I'll come back and wrap it up in this collagen sheet here. I really like using these collagen sheets. Got these from the butcher's pantry. I really like using these for curing whole mussels. They slow down the drying really well. So anyway, that's what I'm doing. I'll be right back after I rinse this off. Got my lamb leg. Just gonna pat it dry with the paper towel. I like to have a little cup of water around when I'm using these sheets. Kind of helps it to stick to itself. And this is totally optional, but this is just a little bit of thyme, rosemary, and marjoram, which are all herbs that go really well with lamb. I'm just gonna lightly sprinkle this over it. Totally optional step, but I had a little of this left over from a duck prosciutto I made. And you know, lamb can be a little gamey to some people, and herbs really cut that gaminess. They help cut that a little bit. So I'm just going to sprinkle a little bit of this over here, sprinkle a little onto my collagen sheet on the bottom for the bottom side, and a little more on the fat. Totally optional, not necessary, but I think it won't hurt anything. Now I'm just going to take this collagen sheet and just try to wrap it up here as relatively tight, as tight as I can. Don't really want air pockets, but I'll be able to poke out any air pockets I get with my sausage pricker. This is where I like to have my water. So I'd like to just put a little on the inside, helps it stick to itself. Same over here. So yeah, this is not wanting to stick super well. Put a little of that in there. That water just help it stick. Same here. Not trying to get it wet, just trying to get it damp. Bada boom, bada bang. Now, if you don't have this netting type stuff, you could just truss this up with some twine, but I do have this. So what I'm gonna do is pull it over this best I can. Uh-oh. Got a call, hold on. Been a volunteer for my local, very rural fire department for like 30 years or so. Sometimes you just gotta drop what you're doing, take care of business. Okay, let's see. Where was I? Oh yeah, got to twist up this netting, tie it off with a simple knot, twist up the other side and tie it off too. Now you want to make sure you leave enough string so that you can tie a loop for hanging it. Now I'm going to sterilize my sausage pricker, let it cool down for a second, and I'm going to put holes all over this collagen sheet. And then one last thing before I put this in my drying chamber, I'm going to get a starting weight. I'm going to calculate my target weight, which for me is going to be 35% weight loss or so. 30% weight loss is the minimum when it becomes safe to eat. Fattier cuts, I tend to go closer to 40%, but this lamb is pretty lean, so I think around 35% is going to be just good for me. Now I'll go hang this up in my drying chamber. So this lamb prosciutto has been in my drying chamber for 8 weeks now, and it's lost 36% of its weight. Keep my drying chamber at 55 degrees Fahrenheit, and it averages 80% relative humidity. See, it's a little low right now, but it goes up, it goes down, and it beeps at me when my door is open for too long. So let's take this out, see what it looks like inside. All right, well, we got to get it out of its netting. And then got to peel this collagen sheet off. Usually, if you get it started, it's not too bad to get off. Sometimes they can be a little stubborn, and if they are, you can give it a quick soak in some water. That helps to release it quite well. And actually, I might have to do that. This is coming apart in these little pieces. It's kind of annoying. There we go. You can see most of that mold on there. Just comes off with the collagen sheet. Sometimes there's a little left behind. That's okay. We'll just wash that off in a minute here. I'm almost done getting this off now, but this definitely would have benefited from like a 30-second soak in some warm water. Just releases that collagen sheet quite easily. Yep, this particular collagen sheet being a little stubborn. They usually come off quite a lot easier. I'm going to just give this a little shot of some red wine and just a little light brush where I got a little bit of mold crept through the collagen sheet. Shot on this side too. You could use white vinegar, you could use white wine, probably use lemon juice if you wanted to. This got a little bit of green mold in there. I think my drying chamber got a little bit too humid for a minute. I put in a whole bunch of summer sausages to just dry a little, and it was like 14 pounds of meat. It was probably too much to put in there all at once. If you load too much at a time, it does spike the humidity, and you can get some unwanted molds. That said, you know, green mold, not the end of the world. It's not ideal. It's not what I'm going for. Hopefully it won't affect the flavor too much. Anything red, yellow, or black, throw it out. I've never come across that yet, but if you do get anything red, yellow, or black, don't take any chances with that. I'm just going to pat that dry a little bit with a paper towel. Wipe up my mess. Let's see what this looks like inside. Lamb prosciutto. I love that dark red color. Oh, that smells amazing. I think I should get the slicer out, give this a taste. All right, let's give it a little taste. Whew. That's really good. Reminds me of bresaola, but with lamb. Definitely the lamb comes through. I think the rosemary and juniper go really well with the lamb. Only really reminds me of bresaola because it's kind of floral. It's got some floral notes to the flavor profile, I guess you'd say. It's not quite as floral as a bresaola, but definitely the rosemary is coming through. Rosemary is a little more dominant than the juniper, but you can definitely taste them both. And you can definitely tell it's lamb, not beef. It's definitely more like bresaola than prosciutto, but it's made with the leg, so I called it a lamb prosciutto. It definitely tastes more like a bresaola than a prosciutto. I'll be vacuum sealing these and equalizing them. They'll continue to develop some flavor. You can see a little bit of darkness around the outside. That will even out, soften up a little by equalizing it. Since this took 8 weeks to dry, I'm going to equalize it for 8 weeks, at least 4 weeks. I like to equalize for ideally the same amount of time it took things to dry, but at least half the time. You really can't use a Ziploc bag for that. You need to vacuum seal it and just keep it in the refrigerator. Pretty easy. And yeah, this is really tasty. Doesn't take very long to make. 8 weeks is pretty quick for a cured mussel. Not bad. I'd give it a shot if you like lamb. This definitely concentrates the lamb flavor. So some people don't like that lamminess, but other people like myself really love it. So if you love lamb and you have a drying chamber or maybe just a basement that stays 50 to 60 degrees and 70 to 80% humidity, doesn't have too much air movement, but maybe has a little, would work really well. Here in Oregon, most houses don't have basements. And if they did, they'd probably have a lot of mold because it's very wet here. But I have a drying chamber, not too hard to set up. I've gone over my drying chamber a little bit in some of my other videos. But if you'd like to see more about how I built my chamber, make sure to leave a comment. If you like this video, make sure to give it a big old thumbs up. If you're still watching this video at this point, you probably like some of my other content. Make sure you're subscribed, hit that notification bell. If you want to support my work and what I'm doing, you can leave me a super thanks. Won't turn that down. And yeah, whatever you do, put some love into the food you make. Peace.